Game Time with Boomer Esiason. This week's guest is the author of the greatest comebacks in NCAA and NFL history, Indianapolis Colts head coach Frank Reich. Brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Shots. It's the one when you gotta get stuff done.
Today's guest is one of the fiercest competitors you'll ever meet, but that insatiable desire for victory is cloaked in humility, literacy, respectfulness, and most of all, human kindness. Now, trust me, folks, I know this because I lived with him for 3 years in College Park, Maryland. Now, you know him as the wildly admired head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I know him as my old college roommate and fellow Terrapins quarterback. It is a personal pleasure to welcome Frank Reich to Game Time. Frank, it's great to see you, man.
You've never said any of those nice things about me when we were roommates. I mean, not even when you were toast as the best man in my wedding, when you were toasting me, you didn't say anything that nice.
Yeah, well, I have to say it nice on TV. But anyway, speaking of Maryland, by the way, when you came on your recruiting trip, I was the one that took you around and made you fall in love with the University of Maryland. I never really asked you this, and I'd like you to clear this up for me. What did they tell you about me when you asked them whether or not, I was going to be your competition as you were coming out of Pennsylvania as the hotshot quarterback?
Well, yeah, there's no doubt I was asking that question, and I was told I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to worry about you. You were going to either flunk out, or you were going to get married, or you weren't going to be there very long. Let's just put it that way. So I had already crossed you off the list. I don't have to worry about this guy. From what the coaches are telling me here, this guy, he's an X. He's not going to be there.
Well, you learned not to lie to your players then, at least from those guys back at Maryland, right?
No doubt.
Right, no doubt. One of the off-season stories this year, big off-season story in the NFL, is your reunion with Carson Wentz. Now, I want you to take me back to when you were scouting him when you were the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. If I remember correctly, you were calling me after you had just met him and you were driving back to the airport. And you said to me, Boomer, I don't understand why people aren't looking at this kid like he's the next Andrew Luck. Do I remember that story correctly?
No, absolutely. That was exactly the comparison, just because of the size and strength and athleticism, and then the intelligence. That obviously everybody knew Andrew Luck. From he was the golden child, right? I mean, he's just this amazing player, an amazing person. With everything in one package, and get to North Dakota, stayed up there, with Carson, and it was kind of crazy. The first thing that hit me was just walking in there and working out with him is just the size and his strength. But then you get him in the classroom, and obviously you do all the research that we did on him, and that he's brilliant smart. I mean, the way they speak about Andrew Luck and his intelligence, Carson's in that same category. The guy never got a B in his life, scores off the charts in every test, brilliant, smart, and yet physically a dominant human being for the position of quarterback.
I remember when you got into coaching, when Bill Polian gave you an opportunity at Indianapolis the first time. You went in there as like a coach's assistant, intern, if you will. You liked it. And then I remember you telling me that you were becoming the quarterback coach when Jim Caldwell was elevated to head coach there. And you're telling me, I get to coach Peyton Manning. And I'm like, man, that's got to be the easiest job in the world. You're going to be a genius. And I remember you told me, you said, are you teach you that you didn't know about playing quarterback in the NFL?
Well, he taught me a lot. And I probably text Peyton 5 times a year thanking him, for the baptism by fire of being his quarterback coach and working with him, and just his work ethic, just how he went at it. And of course, Boomer, I had been out of football for a couple of years, and it's not like the game had passed me by, but now you come back in and you're working with things to get reacquainted with, and no one does them better than him.
Yeah, he set the bar high for all of us, that's for sure. All right, we're just getting warmed up with Colts head coach Frank Reich. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute as Game Time continues right after this.
You're watching Game Time with Boomer Esiason.
Welcome back to Game Time. Among his many achievements in football and outside of the game, What jumps off the page in Frank Reich's biography is his role as Captain Comeback, first at the University of Maryland and then, of course, with the Buffalo Bills. Frank famously engineered two of the greatest comebacks the sport has ever witnessed. And I go back to that one where you were down 31-0 to the University of Miami your senior year at the University of Maryland. You didn't start that game. Our buddy Stan Gelbaugh started because you had been hurt. And then Bobby Ross inserted you in the second half. Frank, I turned the TV off. I left. I bought a house in Cincinnati, came back, and I was told that you engineered the greatest comeback in your life. And I couldn't believe what I saw, and I couldn't believe what I missed. What was it like after the game for you in that locker room?
I mean, it's like nothing you've ever experienced before. I mean, there's this euphoria, that you get to experience a few times in life. And it's all in context. I'm talking about the context of sports, of course. There's, as we know, many different kinds of euphoria. But this was in a way that unlike anything I experienced. But I think what was most fun about it was it's not a single accomplishment. It was a team accomplishment that everyone is just going crazy. And you don't even realize what you just accomplished until people tell you this was the greatest comeback in college football history at the time. And it's just pretty special because those are your brothers. Those are your brothers.
Then 8 years later, the Buffalo Bills trailing the Houston Oilers. Now, full disclosure here, I'm working for NBC as an on-set employee, and I'm doing your game as a pregame host. And then at halftime, they come to me and they say, what do you think? Are the Oilers just going to drill the Bills? I said, you know what? I'm not turning the TV off this time because I saw him do this 8 years ago against the University of Miami. Now you pulled off the trick in a game in which you started, by the way, and then led your team back in the second half. Was there a key moment at halftime or in that second half where you realized, oh man, here we go again. I'm getting that feeling of momentum where I think we can come all the way back from this deficit?
Well, first I have to correct you there for a sec, Boom. I mean, you said that you saw this 8 years earlier. No, actually you turned the TV off on me and went shopping for a house, but okay, you read about it and you saw the highlights, but you did call it. I appreciate you leaving the TV on set, not leaving your job to watch the whole game there. But, there was a moment in that game. First of all, the mentality was just the short story was the mentality was, hey guys, whatever. Are we going to come back just one play at a time? Let's just score a touchdown. Let's make a first down. Let's score one touchdown. We really did take that mentality. Marv Levy talked to us about, let's go out like men. Let's go out fighting. And then it got to be 35. It was 35-3. And then it got to be, we scored a couple of quick touchdowns. It was 35-17. And then boom, we got a turnover, scored another touchdown. It was 35-24 and it was still in the third quarter. And I'm like, we're going to win this game. I mean, I legitimately just felt like this was our game to have, even though we were still down by 11. But that was kind of the turning point as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, it was amazing. And, you got to back up the great Jim Kelly. And I know that you have a great relationship with Jim. And Jim has said so many kind things about you, even when you were an offensive coordinator. But when you became a head coach, he basically said, I'm a better player and a better person because Frank Reich was in my life. And I actually agree with that because he and I both saw you grow into the man that you are today. There's a lot of lessons that you learn through football, Frank. Is there any one lesson, if you could tell a high school coach what to tell a kid that's struggling or, a father who's dealing with a son who may not be doing what he should be doing? Is there any sort of message that you can give?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that question. That's the great thing about sports. It takes us through these highs and lows. And what I have found most valuable, what I have tried to teach myself, what I have tried to teach my children is that it's about two things. It's about the people that you're doing it with, and it's about the process, about what you're going through. The results are going to be like this, right? The results are going to be like this. And so although we always want the best results, I have found and I have experienced both as a player, as a coach, as a father, it's, focus on the people, focus on the process of just doing what you're doing and getting better every day, enjoying what it is you're doing, because the results will come and go, and try not to get too fixated on those.
All right, we'll return with Coach Sideline Guru Frank Reich right after these messages.
You're watching Gametime with Boomer Esiason.
Frank Reich won the hearts of Indianapolis fans and media alike at his introductory press conference. When asked how he felt about getting the job on the rebound after Josh McDaniels reneged on his agreement, Frank replied, "The backup role has suited me well in my career." And Frank, that line in itself won the press conference. I don't think winning the press conference really has meaning to many people, but for an initial impression, you certainly said the right thing at the right time.
Well, yeah, it was a funny moment, but obviously totally unscripted. Probably only could have happened the way it did with Pat McAfee, asking the question in his hilarious way of doing things. So that helped things as well. But it was a crazy circumstances, but just one of those things that you just felt like this is meant to be. And I've enjoyed every step of the way. I owe a lot to a lot of people along the way, the Eagles organization, obviously Mr. Irsay here, and then, Bill Polian had done so much for me in my NFL career, being a supporter and an advocate for me. I'm just thrilled to be here.
I'm really glad you brought up Bill's name, because back in 1985, he predicted that you were going to be a great head coach someday. He didn't know what, I'm assuming he was saying it was an NFL head coach, but he saw something in you. What do you think he saw in you that told him that you would turn out to be a good coach?
I just think, I still remember it. I mean, he came up at the season was over, my rookie year, and he said to me, "Hey, play as long as you can, and then Frank, you're going to be a head coach in this league one day. When you retire, I want you to come coach for me, and you're going to be a head coach." And Boomer, I think what he saw was just a love for the game, a love for the competitiveness of it, a love for the X's and the O's, a love for the locker room, a love to practice, just eat, sleep, and drink. There's something about this game that can be intoxicating in a very good way that I think makes us better. It makes us better football players, better men, better leaders, that kind of deal.
Well, you had a great example in your dad, who played at Penn State. I don't know if this is true, but they say he was the last 60-minute man at Penn State, never came off the field. He was a high school coach himself. You saw him and how he dealt with all the different issues in your family's life when you were growing up. What kind of impact did he have on you?
Yeah, I mean, even you saying that, Boomer, just kind of chokes me up. I'm not going to lie, because when I got this job, I mean, that's like a dream that he never got to see come true. But, he's just a rock of a man, right? I mean, a rock of a man. He may have been the last 60 minutes. I've had many people tell me that at Penn State, he was the last person to ever play 60 minutes there. Never played with the face mask, broken nose 8 times, all these concussions. He was just a rock of a man and really taught me a lot about the game.
Have I mentioned that Colts Frank Reich is a proud alumnus of the University of Maryland yet? Well, but that's not where his schooling ended. While quarterbacking the Carolina Panthers, he did enroll in the Reformed Theological Seminary Charlotte campus and later served as its president. And Frank, like you said earlier in the interview, you didn't go right into coaching. You left football and went into the seminary. And I know that Bill Polian wanted you to come and coach. Why did you decide to do what you did as opposed to going into football?
Well, there were a couple of reasons. First was, we had 3 young daughters, and they were, when I retired from football, they were 8, 6, and 2. And, I just knew that if I went straight into coaching, that the time requirement I wouldn't be able to go to swim meets. I wouldn't be able to do homework with them. And, I had played long enough to make enough. I wasn't independently wealthy. I was a backup quarterback, so I didn't make a ton of money, but I made enough that we could manage it. And so I wanted to be there for my family. But then also, there were things that we were doing, that I was doing ministry-wise, and I wanted to go to seminary just to grow spiritually in a way to be able to continue to learn and grow and make an impact in that realm. And so went to seminary. And Boomer, I'm serious. Like, when I tell you this, I mean, there was a tremendous spiritual impact on my life, but I don't think I've ever would have realized how much that prepared me to be a head coach, being the then president of a seminary. To going, there's the head coach thing it's not just coaching football. So, but actually being the president of a seminary for 3 years, I think helped me in a leadership capacity, in an organizational capacity, to really be a better coach.
I know that you and Linda are very, very philanthropic, and this year announced the opening of Not Today. Tell me what Not Today is all about and why it's so important for you and Linda to see this thing through.
Well, when we got here to Indianapolis, with the role and the platform of being a head coach, we said, how are we going to use this for good? Much like you and all that you've done with the Boomer Esiason Foundation, and we decided the area that Linda and I wanted to really make an impact in was protecting the beauty and innocence of childhood. In particular, we're talking about, fighting against the sexual abuse and exploitation and trafficking of children. And this has long been something Linda has been passionate about. She served in this capacity with different organizations over the years as we've made our travels around the NFL. And so we just have dove head into it, very passionate about it, very excited about where the foundation is going and the impact that we can have to really, there's one goal, and that's to help these children, to create awareness, prevention, and then help provide restoration for children who have endured this.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Frank, welcome back for more with the king of comebacks right after this, Frank Reich. Stay with us.
You're watching Game Time with Boomer Esiason.
Welcome back to Game Time. As we continue with Frank Reich, influences on you, Frank, as a coach. I'm sure your dad has had a major influence on you. How about Marv Levy?
Marv Levy, Boomer, I can't say enough about Marv Levy. He's 90-some years old. I still call him several times a year. I called him recently just to say hello. And he wrote a book. He wrote a book of poems. And so Linda and I bought it off of Amazon. And so one night we were sitting there, and Linda was reading the book. She was reading me Marv's poems, in our bedroom. And so I had to get on the phone and call Marv and tell him, hey, we were sitting there reading your poems last night. This guy, I can't even explain what a Renaissance man this is. This guy was a brilliant football coach, a master motivator. And then the next day, and he's 90-some years, I get a poem from him in an email, just personalized to me. I mean, an incredible influence on my career.
Yeah, I would say so. The amazing thing is, since we knew each other so well, and you've spent 10 years up there in Buffalo, I felt like I knew all your guys on your team, and I felt like I was in some way a part of your team, although I did beat you guys in the '89 AFC Championship game. That's a whole nother story. And then you stole our offense, and we could talk about that on a whole nother show. But I will say that you guys had a great group of guys, and you could see all the Hall of Famers, and of course, led by Marv Levy and Bill Polian. Can you recreate that in Indianapolis?
I think what we can recreate is the chemistry. Every team takes on its own personality, but there was a general love and respect for each other, and a desire to be great. Just to be the best, to win championships. And that Lombardi Trophy eluded us in Buffalo, but it didn't really take away from the special run that we had really for 6 years. The 4 Super Bowl years, of course, but then Boomer, as you alluded to, in '88. We lost to you guys in the AFC Championship game. So that run of that team really started in '88. So it was 6 incredible years.
How is Doug Pederson doing, and what is he doing right now?
Yeah, Doug's down in Florida. He's doing great. I expect to see him as a head coach, on the sideline next year. The influence, I'll tell you what, you talk about influence, I'll just give you 15 seconds on that. I mean, his play calling, the guts, the guts that he had, the aggressiveness as a play caller. I learned a lot from Doug in that regard. So I'll always be grateful for him, hiring me as his coordinator. So what a great coach and a great person.
Yeah, well, I could tell by the aggressive nature that you are now as a play caller, the impact that he's had on you. So don't ever change, Frank. Be the guy that you always are. We love you, and we wish you nothing but the best out there in Indianapolis. Our thanks to Frank Reich for joining us today, and to all of you for watching. I'm Boomer Esiason, and I'll see you again real soon right here on Game Time.
You're sentimental in your old age. Just because you turned 60.
Soft.
You are getting soft. You turned 60 and you got soft.
Yeah, but Frank, I rode 70 miles on my bike on my 60th birthday, and I played 3 hockey games that week.
Good.
Come get some.
Yeah, I don't think I could handle you.
I would love to have you on the ice just once. Can you skate, by the way?
No.